You good? Okay, welcome. Let's call to order the meeting of the Town Commission of December 2nd, 2019 at 6 PM. Can we do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Bessler,
Here.
Mayor Cos,
Here.
Commissioner DeHaseth,
Present.
Commissioner Herbert,
Present.
Vice Mayor Magruder.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. Are there any additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda? Tracy and Carla?
Yes, Mayor, I need to remove item number 8 from the agenda, please.
Item number 8. Okay. Can we read the rest of the agenda in?
I mean, do you want to approve the agenda as amended?
Yeah,
Okay.
but Carla has to read the
Well,
items.
that's for the consent agenda. This is just for the approval of the agenda.
Hang on. Either I'm behind you or you're ahead of me. Okay, so we need a motion to
Yes,
approve. We have a motion to approve with the amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carla? Announcements?
We have a presentation first, if you will.
Oh, Susan.
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes. So I'm going to read a letter that was sent to Commissioner Hurlbert from Lynn Tipton from the Florida League of Cities University. And it says, Honorable Commissioner Hurlbert, on behalf of the Florida League of Cities and John Scott Daly Florida Institute, I am pleased to award this certificate to you for the completion of 18 hours of instruction at the Institute for Elected Municipal Officials. It is our sincere hope that you found the program challenging and worthwhile. Now that you have taken the basic EMO, we encourage you to attend the Advanced Institute offered annually. We also encourage you to take advantage of other training opportunities through FLC University and the Institute of Government. We strongly believe that your attendance at the Institute is indicative of your continued commitment to improving the quality of municipal government in Florida. And this is your certificate.
Okay.
Now it's my turn. Okay. The next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting will be held on December 16th at 8 a.m. at Town Hall. The date for the Septic to Sewer Citizens Advisory Committee meeting in December is to be determined. The next regular Town Commission meeting will be held on January 6th at 6 p.m. at Town Hall. The town will be closed at noon on December 24th in observance of Christmas Eve and will be closed on December 25th in observance of Christmas Day. Town Hall will be closed on January 1st in observance of New Year's Day. The town's annual holiday celebration will be held on Friday, December 6th from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at Town Hall. All Ocean Ridge residents are welcome to attend. The second annual toy drive is now underway. Toys can be dropped off in the police department lobby until December 9th, and then will be distributed to the children through the Guardian Ad Litem program of Palm Beach County. The town will be hosting Parents' Night Out on December 20th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Whether you have last-minute holiday shopping to do or just want a night out to yourself, children ages 4 and older are welcome to hang out with us at Town Hall. The municipal elections will be held on March 17th, 2020. There are 2 commission seats open for a 3-year term. Candidates filing day run from noon on December 2nd, 2019, which is today, through noon on December 13th, 2019 in the town clerk's office. The town has launched the new alert system Civic Ready. Residents who wish to sign up to receive town notifications should sign up on the town's website or call Town Hall for assistance. Next on the agenda is public comment. The mayor will invite you to We invite the public to speak on the commission on any item that is not printed on the agenda. Public comments on a specific agenda item may be made later in the meeting when the items are taken up. There's a 3-minute individual limit for public comments that will be timed by the town clerk. Public comment is not meant to be a question and answer period, and there will be no dialogue. Anyone wishing to speak during public comments will approach the podium and state their name and address for the record, and see the town clerk after speaking to fill out a comment card in order for the minutes to be properly recorded. Thank you.
Okay, public comment? Yes.
I'm Joan Bergeser, Ocean Manor condo, 5500 Old Ocean Boulevard. Been an owner in Ocean Ridge since 1979. I'm also secretary of the board and legal chair. We're here to speak about the trash problem that you brought up, and we would like to state that we have tried our best to solve every one of the complaints, which we've done. We've also consulted with our attorney, but rather than pursue legal means, I would like to introduce our president and chair of the trash committee to give you to give you the solution that we are going to present.
Bob Thompson from 5500 Old Ocean Boulevard, and I'm here to provide an update on Ocean Manor's trash and recycling collection. And with some very cooperative effort on the part of Chris Schuley from Waste Pro, we do indeed have a plan for collection on Old Ocean Boulevard as opposed to Fayette Drive, which will be in effect prior to the 1st of next year.
Thank you. Excellent. Very good news. Thank you. Appreciate everyone's cooperation. Jan?
Terry Brown, Harbor Drive South. I know you have an item on here that's about beach signage, so I don't want to cut myself out of, because I'd like
You
to
are.
speak on that, because I'm not speaking on it right now. I am acknowledging a sign, though, which I do appreciate, that's between Briny Breezes and Ocean Ridge. Someone put up a sign that said, Town of Ocean Ridge, which I appreciate. I mentioned that to this commission almost a year ago, and it finally got there. I do appreciate it. Thank you. It's a warm feeling to come from the county pocket through Briny Breezes and see that nice little sign discreetly identifying the borders of the town of Ocean Ridge. So thank you all.
Janet?
Janet Shines, 111 Dolphin Bend. I'm here tonight to talk about the short-term rental issue again in our town and to ask for specific actions to be taken to stop this illegal activity. Our town is being targeted by investor landlords who are specifically selecting beachside towns like ours, where the fines are low, the rules are not heavily enforced, and the lack of measured action to stop these short-term rentals lets them line their pockets with cash. These short-term rental properties lower our house values, degrade our community, and increase crime rates. And you don't have to believe me about this. On the issue of house value, the mayor of Miami Beach recently shared a study that home values decline substantially when short-term rentals are permitted and costs to the town rise. Miami Beach, in fact, has now instituted a $20,000 first violation fine as their enforceable law. $20,000 will stop a lot of bad behavior. According to the Facebook group Neighbors of Airbnb, they sanctioned a study. Homeowner satisfaction with the community declines close to 30% in the first year of short-term rentals being permitted in a town, leading to a very large turnover in residents, changing the town forever. And finally, on the issue of crime, the University of Massachusetts study showed there's a significant correlation between short-term rentals and an increased crime index. My husband and I moved here because we believed there was a law in place to prohibit short-term rentals. What we didn't know was that our authorities were basically handcuffed to do anything about it. We've had 9 complaints the 10th of which was this weekend, which finally is going to the magistrate after we endured 16 people living in a 4-bedroom house for the weekend, creating all kinds of havoc. And so I'm here to bring this to your attention again. With the last time I was here, Brian, our town attorney, was asked to come back with enforcements and changes in the laws. I've heard nothing about that. And so I've done my study, and with my remaining minute, these are my asks. Ensure every rental property in town has to certify annually. Use a platform like Host Compliance to ensure they're actually complying with laws. Make sure that we enforce the no rentals of less than 30-day rule. Have a landlord or tenant registration of every new rental in town and a mandatory visit from the police to confirm compliance. When there are violations, we need increased fines. We need people that violate to lose their rental certificate for a period of 1 year. And we need the ability, like Miami Beach has done, to evict renters of repeat offenders. They actually make people relocate the next day, putting a complete end to this. And finally, we should post signs in town and with all realtors confirming that our town does not allow these illegal rentals. Host Compliance CEO Ehrlich Benzer said it best when he said, cities that wait for the phone to ring with a complaint are not having a lot of luck with compliance, and they're putting their residents at risk. Cities and counties that have decided they want to do something will actually make money. I hope I speak for all of our town residents when I implore you to act swiftly and decisively and stop this threat to our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Usually there's not discussion, but let me just turn to Brian. Brian, I know you've been looking into this, and we've been solidifying as much as we can. So given the current situation, can we take another hard look at it? I'm familiar with the Miami Beach.
We can, and the issue that we have, there's certain communities in Dade County and Broward County had certain regulations enacted prior to, I think it was June of 2011. Because after June of 2011, that's when the state legislature kind of preempted the field for a lot of changes that municipalities might be able to do. Now, I understand that what we were talking about is really on the penalty phase, and I get that. However, I'll have to take a look to see what Miami Beach did, because we also have Chapter 162 code enforcement that only allows us to do certain things on the penalties. And so I'll have to look to see how Miami Beach, because I've read the articles before about Miami Beach. However, I've heard some other things too about Miami Beach. And so I'm not so sure the newspaper articles tell the whole story. Because I've chatted with some different people on that where the fines seem to be incredibly excessive, and how are they allowed to do that? And well, let's just say the newspaper article might not be telling the whole story there, but yes, we can certainly take another hard look at that and see what we can do. Unfortunately, you know, there are certain restrictions that, you know, if we didn't have certain things in place in 2011, there's not a lot that we can do on vacation rentals.
Could you also look into signage? That's kind of an interesting concept. I don't know quite how we do it, but if Airbnbers know they're renting a house that's not supposed to be Airbnb, they won't rent it. We know this from meeting people in Ocean Ridge.
Right.
They're unaware they're breaking the rules.
Right, yes.
Yeah, and you may also want to look at the fact that the first lawsuit has been filed by a homeowner in the state suing the town for non-action on enforcement. I don't know if we can afford that risk.
Or are you talking about this town or another town? Okay,
What's happening?
okay.
So Brian-
Residents whose right of use is being violated by an Airbnb or other short-term rental in non-compliance with the law are now suing their towns.
What town? Oh, towns.
Towns, there are multiple towns. Barcelona is going bankrupt over it. Physically bankrupt. So we should think about that before we think we can't enforce our rules.
I just Airbnb there.
Oh.
Any other public comment? Okay, consent agenda?
Adopt minutes of the regular town commission meeting of November 4th, 2019. Resolution number 2019-26, approve a utility easement for 94 Island Drive South. Approve the budgeted expenditure of up to $12,750 for the annual coconut trimming on public property and town's right-of-way. Approve the budget expenditure of up to $7,000 for the purchase of an ATV for the police department.
Do we have a motion on approving the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, beach signage.
Okay, Mayor, many years ago, the town had signs on the beach in our right-of-way near Oceanfront Park educating the public regarding beach regulations. However, those signs were damaged and/or removed and have never been reinstalled. At the request of some of our residents, I requested at the July meeting that the town expend funds to erect signs in the following locations: on the beach south of Ocean Inlet Park, north of Hammock Park, south of Oceanfront Park, and north of Briny Breezes. At that time, the commission directed me to meet with each commissioner to discuss ideas for alternate verbiage. I have attached several versions of signs with different verbiage suggested by commissioners and would request that the town commission review those tonight and approve whichever version the commission desires. Funds for the purchase of the signs have been budgeted for in the FY20 Public Works Department street signs line. So if you look, we have 5 different versions of the signs, and if we can just talk about which one the commission likes best and go forward with purchasing those.
Okay, is it simpler to do a discussion then public comment, or public comment first? You're gonna have to
Should we go
scroll.
with number 1, Carla?
There's 2 on the top page.
Oh, you don't have the other table?
2.
Okay. And she doesn't have the other 2 options, but option 4 says end of public beach in large letters. And then it says, please respect private property on the second line. The third line says thank you, and then there would be a town logo underneath that. And then option number 5 says end of public beach in large lettering. And then it says only wet sand / shoreline is accessible by the public beyond this point. Please respect private property by staying away from dunes and close to the water.
So why don't we hand this, and I'll try to remember what it says, Carla? Because we're gonna ask people to talk about something that they're not gonna be able to remember.
Can we go on the projector?
Same, consider it the same. Thank you very much. Okay, let's do public comment, yeah. Okay, we have public comment? Bob?
Bob Weissplit, Sailfish Lane. A couple of years ago, I came up and I spoke on the same kind of topic, but it was a different sign. And my point then, and I still say it is, I would like signs in Ocean Ridge not to sound like they're for an institution of a prison, but as a, please do this, we appreciate your cooperation, things like that. Use words in it and that, to that effect, and I think you'll get the same results, but it certainly reads nicer.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Terry Brown, Harbor Drive South. One of the problems you have with end of public beach is that from the inlet down to Edith is public sand. They're pumping public sand onto that beach. And if anyone bothered to look at the property appraiser's property lines, you'll note that the old road right-of-way cuts off all those properties, and that all of the properties from the top of the dune down to the water is public domain. It's not a private beach. So you have so many different variations with the plat. You can't tell people not to walk on land that their tax dollars, federal, state, and county tax dollars, are paying for by pumping that sand onto the beach, which is happening. And some of these folks that live along there signed an agreement years ago when they were pumping sand onto there. This is public property, not private property. As much as they would like to think that they own it, they only own it to the point where the property appraisers cuts off their line. And you can look at it yourself. We used to have a chart up here showing the lines of the property. and it's no longer up here. So I think that folks need to be real careful when you start using end of the public beach, because you're going to get some pushback from people who are advocates for beach access. You can't tell people to walk on the wetland when they are allowed to walk on the dry land that they paid for.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Betty Bingham, 1 East Ocean Avenue. I can't let that statement stand, because when they decided to pump sand onto the beach, they came by and requested everyone give them a right-of-way over their property to pump sand. There were those people, and we were one of them, even though we've got a very narrow slit, that refused to give them that right-of-way, knowing full well what would happen if you did. I think you'll find some people gave them the right to pump sand, even though the sand probably went to all the properties. Not everyone gave up their rights.
Thank you, good point. Anybody else? Okay, Commissioner. Whoop. Marilee.
Marilee Lundquist, 6277 North Ocean Boulevard. This is a very, very complicated issue, and it's very hard to get the right answers. The history for us was when we bought the property, it is surveyed, deeded, taxed. And then we were building our house. They came by and just asked for a simple, may we, it's a very simple statement. I have to find, we were not even living here at the time. But it, just asked permission to do it, and so we agreed. Then we signed some papers, which, wish I could find it here now. Here it is, I guess. And part of it says, this is a temporary easement and agreement. It's not a public dedication. Nothing herein contained shall be deemed to be a gift or dedication to or for the general public, and shall be strictly limited to and for the purposes expressed therein.
Which is what? Beach renourishment?
Pardon me?
Which is what purpose there?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of things. The easement premises may be used, subcontracts to assign for the proposed beach restoration, which,
That answers my question.
but it says it's not a public dedication. I don't know why they are putting public sand on a lot of private properties. I guess it's because in order to make it stick, they have to have a certain amount of mileage on it. So we've been through 2 renourishments. They have lasted about a year. All the sand drifts down south, which is wonderful for everybody. Now, it's an interesting thing that when you talk to Palm Beach County, they have assured us that we still own to the erosion control line. The assessor's office says, yes, we own, the property. They have not reduced our taxes. They have not paid us for land. I guess we should appreciate the sand, which is only there for a year. Now, in Palm Beach County, I've been talking to people who have been through 2 renourishments just like us. And Palm Beach is giving, they have to sign an agreement that allows the public to use their beach, and there are like 10 holdouts there. We in Ocean Ridge have not been, asked or, contacted again and given the option like what's happening in Palm Beach. And it's a very sad thing for me because I think wanting to be a good citizen really impacts our value of our home. And there was just so much destruction during and after Dorian, all along the beach. And personally, the sand renourishment does not protect Ocean Ridge just because of our geography, because we are a high ridge. And when the water, there's a lot of sand sitting out there, so it's a lot shallower, and I think the water runs in further, and it erodes at the bottom, and then it collapses the top down. And there's even one home that looks to be kind of in peril from this action. And, we've maintained the beach. We try to be good citizens. So I don't know what the answer is. It's a very difficult situation.
We can make a start on it, though.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mary Lou.
yeah, thank you.
Is there any of these 5 options that catches your eye?
I just appreciate the fact that people should know that it's Ocean Ridge and not Boynton Beach. And anything that you do is very much appreciated. And thank you for taking this on. It's a difficult issue. And I tell you, I've sent you things all along, and there is a lot of disrespect for the beach. And I've had 2 instances of homeless living in the sea grapes. I've had intrusions onto my property, different things. So anyway, it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, commissioner comments, discussion?
Sure, I'll kick it off. I completely agree with you, Bob. And I also agree with you, Mary Lee, that we should signify that it's the town sign. Hopefully people will be a little bit more respectful before they knock it down or paint over it. So I kind of like option 4, and I don't know how else to state it, Terry, but it does say, end of public beach, please respect private property, thank you, and just our town logo. It's simple, it's sweet, it's short. I think it's inviting but still instructional, and I think some of the other ones that are very long just kind of will be glazed over or get lost.
I agree with Christine. We went through this at the south end of town for years. And you have 2 choices. You either go short and respectful, which this accomplishes, and also is a statement of fact. It is the end of the Boynton Public Beach. Or you would have to go real windy and do a graphic. Once you start telling people that they can only be in the wet sand, it's an emotional hot button. It's not good. So I totally agree with option 4 as well.
I kind of go the opposite way. I think if you say end of public beach, please respect private property, how does the person know if they're a visitor, even, where do I walk then? I gotta stop? Or if I'm walking down the beach, where do I walk? You don't want them walking on the dunes, right? Nobody wants them walking on the dunes.
But we're installing these signs in, let's call it the dry sand, above the mean high water mark.
Right, but you're saying end of public beach.
Right.
So what does that mean? All the rest is private?
I think that's the beauty of the sign, frankly. And the other thing we have to think about here is once we start this, then we'll see how it works, because what we're trying to do is basically educate people. So we'll have enough room to put a sub-sign if we feel that this isn't accomplishing anything. In other words, we could put in additional information underneath it in a separate sign.
Well, I've been working with Mary Lee for, 2-3 years, I guess, back and forth with signage and whatnot, and I was looking more for signs that tried to educate the public as to what we were looking for in respect to the beach owners along A1A, where Mary Lee lives. And I understand that what we're trying to do here is make it as brief as possible. It still doesn't educate them. What we're really trying to do is to keep them from setting up volleyball nets and camping and their shade tents and so on and so forth on the public property. And there's no way that you can make a sign small or large enough to try and do all that that we could afford. So perhaps number 4 would work, but instead of just saying end of public beach, perhaps we should amend that to say end of Boynton Beach, or Boynton's public beach. Put Boynton in there so that you're not saying it's the end of the public beach, you're saying it's the end of the beach that Boynton Beach reserves for its residents and whatnot that have passes and whatnot. So it's into that, it's into Boynton Beach's public beach, not the end of public beach, period. And you would need one on either side, on the south and the north side of the beach. So,
Would you not want to put one then by Briny Breezes?
well, let's face it, I mean, the problems that we're having are with the beachgoers at Boynton Beach merging down south. I haven't seen a problem, and I mean, that's up to the rest of the commission. I have no objections to doing that, but I think what we're really trying to control is at least getting some respect for the people that go south along A1A and the ocean, to just not put up, they're putting up tents, they're actually putting up 4-post tent, shade tents. They're playing volleyball in front of Mary Lee's house. She's had people come in and use her pool. It's a problem. The problem that you have, though, is that they're not going to read the signs. They're not going to respect the signs anyway. But I mean, all we can do is place them there and kind of hope for the best. But I think what we really need to do is to do a better job of identifying what the boundaries are, as far as it being the Boynton Beach Park that we're trying to say this is the end of that. Everything here is, private property or property owned by homeowners, and please respect their rights to be able to use their beach without you camping on it. I don't know how you get there without putting in some language on the Boynton Beach part of it.
Well, I kind of disagree a little bit. People have gone to the public beach, and now they have all their equipment, and then they're leaving the public beach and ending up in Mary Lee's property. So I think we don't need to put in the word Boynton. I'm not objecting to it if we decide to do it, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, I'm going to weigh in on this as well. And looking at them all, and we've been around and around trying to dance how to do that. Public shoreline, private beach, but the more words you put on a sign, the more verbiage, the less people pay attention to it. So, thinning it out the way we have, I think number 4 looks pretty good. I like the town logo, and the problem about people thinking they can't continue walking down the shoreline, that's basically self-education. So you would hope that if somebody was having an issue or wasn't sure, Boynton has all those public lifeguards. You could just actually ask them if you thought, but I think you'll also see there's a lot of the public walking down that. And we also, the south end has the same issue as well. Not quite as bad because the south end is not hitting right up on Boynton Public. But after the Briny and the Dog Beach area, you have the same thing, and people are still giving calls about tents and, radios and kegs and what
But are
have you.
people walking all the way from Gulfstream
No,
Public Beach?
they're coming from the other, yes, you get the Gulfstream, but you also have, you have the drop-offs.
Pocket and through Briny?
No, you have mostly it's the drop-offs at the public crossovers. And, it's just like coming from the public beach. Probably not as horrendous, but nonetheless, you have the same basic issue there. So my input is just, I understand what you're dealing with, but less verbiage is better.
What about if we said end of public beach, no lifeguard beyond this point?
I think that is just a red flag to people that want to party.
Keep going and don't worry about a
No,
lifeguard.
they want to party.
Right.
Well, I'm moving over this side, they won't harass.
It's not an easy, because you're balancing, as you know, you're balancing so much here. But we have to start somewhere, like you said, Steve. So I
May I
think
ask-
less verbiage is better.
Brian, do we have any liability as far as the town is concerned without notification that there is no lifeguard available at any of our crossovers?
Remember, we went through this, maybe it was before you, Brian.
What's that?
We went through this maybe before your tenure.
It could be, I mean, I'm just trying to think of the few cases I'm aware of out there where municipalities have been sued, where they failed to provide lifeguards, and it seemed like there was some furtherance part on the part of the municipality in welcoming people, or it's almost like an attractive nuisance in having people come forward to say, here you go, but we aren't providing lifeguards. Just the same thing, you know, of course, Boynton Beach could have their own beach up there, and they could put in big letters, no lifeguard. They can do that. Now, is there a chance, or, you know, are we having a, you know, I guess a better chance if we were to get sued, if we had a sign up there on the beach crossovers that said no lifeguard? But the thing about it is, I'm not aware that where the beach crossovers go into, it's not really a public beach there anyway.
We went to the.
So, exactly, and so it's.
The word public has been stricken.
Yeah.
And it was the hot dog stand down in Miami that got sued, because they allowed a hot dog stand on the beach, which then made people come to the beach to go to the hot dog, and then they thought it was a public beach, and somebody drowned, so the city got sued for allowing the vendor on the beach. Marilee, you only get one shot, is this
Well, there is a sign, no lifeguard beyond this point there.
on the Boynton side?
At the Boynton Public.
It's right
Great.
to the, you know, where Ocean Ridge starts. It's right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Boynton Public.
Okay, I think we can go to a vote. Do I hear a motion? I think Tracy wrote one up. I move to approve beachside. Who wants to take a shot at it? Here.
I move to approve beach sign option number 4 to be installed on the beach south of Ocean Inlet Park, north of Hammock Park, south of Oceanfront Park. I'm not so sure about this one, but north of Briny Breezes.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I believe that was unanimous. All those against signify by saying nay.
I'll vote aye.
Okay,
Make it unanimous.
thank you. Okay. So Marilee, it's a start. We'll see what happens. Okay, resolution number 2019-23, agenda item number 3. Carla?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending the employee handbook, providing for repeal of prior resolutions in conflict and providing for an effective date.
Tracy?
Yes, as you know, this came before you at the last meeting, and it was sent back to staff for some changes, so we reworked this and resubmitted it for your approval.
And I believe the main change is the very last item in section 3 that everyone's seen. It's on page 18.
Yes.
And one thing to note there, which Tracy will confirm, if we outsource, it costs us more than
Yes.
this method.
To outsource to have an employee certified, yes, correct.
Okay. Public comment? Commissioner discussion?
I move to approve resolution 2019-23, amending the employee handbook as submitted.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item number 4, resolution number 2019-24. Carla?
That's offshore drilling. Item number 4. Oh,
Yes, offshore.
Yes.
You want me to read it?
yeah, I can't find my resolution page.
Resolution number 2019-24, resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, to express the Town of Ocean Ridge's opposition to offshore drilling activities, including seismic air gun blasting.
We have an expert here?
We were supposed to have Christian Ehrenruth here. I don't know if he is here. I don't see
He's not
him.
here.
He was here at the last commission meeting, and he gave you an overview of the resolution. The proposed resolution, along with the reference materials, was attached for the commission's consideration. And if you need to schedule this for the next meeting, you can, but I know that you've already heard
Yeah.
from Mr.
He's
Aaron
presented
Ruth.
and he's
Yeah.
given us all the information.
Exactly.
And it's really in the self-interest of Ocean Ridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Public comment? Okay, somebody wanna,
All right, I'll make the motion to pass resolution number 2019-24 to oppose offshore drilling activities, including seismic air gun blasting.
I'll second.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item number 5.
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, moving the date for the municipal election to be held concurrent with the presidential preference primary election and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this is pretty straightforward. Any public comment? Commissioner comment? Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item number 6, release unity of title for 94 Islands Drive South.
If we-
Wayne and Lisa, I guess
Yes,
it
we
was.
get Lisa to.
I'm going to have Lisa give a little bit of background on this one.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission.
Good evening.
Thanks, Don. Thank you, Don. Appreciate that. 94 Island Drive South has been going on for a while now. I was involved in the beginning stages of this. So we came to an agreement that there were several items that needed to be completed with what we'll call the off-site improvements, so that the unity of title, if you recall, there was originally 3 lots, then 2 lots, then hopefully 3 lots. And so we came up with a list of engineering items that needed to be completed in order to release the unity of title back to the 3 lots. So our town building official and I were just out there about an hour ago, and there's just a little patch of asphalt left. But everything else has been completed that we all agreed to. There's 2 minor items that we, for the benefit of all of us in Ocean Ridge, the second lift of asphalt for that cul-de-sac and the building of a septic tank and drain field cannot be done until the building gets done. So I'm saying all of this because we as staff feel like they've done everything they've needed to do. We agree that those 2 other items would benefit all of us if it were done before a certificate of occupancy during the building permit process. But they have this little patch, and they're coming back tomorrow. They ran out of asphalt. So, you know, in the spirit of cooperation, I would suggest that you all just maybe give staff the ability to release the unity of title when we feel that patch is complete, which will probably happen tomorrow. Instead of having the applicant come back to you in January. It doesn't seem realistic to do that. So if you have any questions, that's everything in
Would you like to
summary.
add anything, Wayne?
No, that's pretty much basically it.
Okay.
They've completed the items that and followed the outline as prescribed.
I'm curious, how big is this patch?
Well, it's the whole cul-de-sac.
No, but you said this.
Oh, the patch is like the size of a parking stall. You know, it might be
8 by 10.
8,
by 10,
yeah, it's
comparison to the
tiny
whole building.
in comparison to the whole cul-de-sac.
Right.
I mean, it's obvious they ran out of asphalt, you know,
Gotcha.
but they'll be back,
Yeah.
yeah.
Public comment?
I have a comment.
Commissioner, comment?
There is a drain in the cul-de-sac that goes out to the intercoastal through a 5-foot easement on the
Yes.
properties. Is there going to be a duct valve on the end of that drain that goes into the intercoastal?
Yes, we performed a final observation on November 26th, and I have pictures to show that the duckbill has been installed on the outfall. So a new drainage pipe is in, it's in place, and the duckbill's there. So
Yeah.
we're good to
It's
go.
amazing we got a duck bill.
Okay. And I think my other comment was make sure that that 5-foot easement doesn't get a chain link fence or palm tree or
Right.
some other type of obstacle buried into it over the years. That's your and Wayne's responsibility.
Right, thank you for that. Yes, we will do the best we can to keep that clear.
So, Brian, do we need help making this motion since we're,
We've got one
There
right
you
here.
have-
oh. But
Shall I read it?
We have to tag it with the fact that,
I think it's in there, right?
It-
Okay.
yes, I think it's,
Yes.
So want me to make it? I'll move
Sure.
to authorize staff to process the release of unity of title covenant for 94 Island Drive South, conditioned upon the owner complying with and completing all of the town's requirements as stated in the project narrative, with the understanding that the last 2 items listed in the project narrative will be completed during the building process after a building permit is issued and prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy by the building official. All good?
we're, second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, legal service agreement with Roberts, Reynolds, Bedard, and Tuzio.
Yes, currently, this is the outside firm that has been retained by our insurance carrier, and this is the waterfront ICW case that's been going on for about 3 to 4 years now. And in the agreement that we have with their insurance carrier, there is a $100,000 cap on insurance defense expenses. And so since they are getting close to that amount, in speaking with Lyman Reynolds, the principal at the law firm there, I think what their normal practice is that they would say, look, you can retain another firm or you can continue with us. We'll give you the same rate that we have with the insurance carrier. And they signed the agreement that we had provided, and things will just continue on. However, we will not be charged until they reach the 100% cap with the insurance carrier. And at that point in time, then it'll just be the hourly rate that's listed in the agreement.
And then if it starts running hot, then Tracy would alert us.
Absolutely. Yep.
It sounds like very reasonable fees, by the way. Public comment? Commissioner comment? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
We're kind of off low in the draws, aren't we?
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, it's off the agenda, we're going to 9. First reading of ordinance number 2019. Carla?
An ordinance of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending its code of ordinances by amending Chapter 67, Building and Building Regulations, Article 3, Technical Codes and Other Construction Standards, Division 1, generally, Section 67-32, floor elevations to clarify the maximum finished floor elevations, providing for codification, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and effective date.
Brian, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think just in my conversations with you all, when we had talked about this, there's just a few certain, I don't want to say anomalies, but based on the pitch of the road, what we had found out after we had amended the ordinance, maybe, about a year ago, that the maximum floor elevation was actually lower than the required minimum floor elevation. So in order to fix that, that's the reason we did this fix. So in those particular very few cases, then the minimum floor elevation will rule, and it will then become also the maximum floor elevation as well.
Ground zero.
Yes, yes.
Wayne, anything to? All right, public comment? No, commissioner comment?
Sounds right.
Anybody want to make a motion on this? Staff recommends approval, by the way.
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance number 2019-14 for the first reading.
I second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, Tracy, give me a little advice here. Are it's, on this artificial turf, let's do a discussion versus actually a first reading? In other words, apparently there's a lot of different voices that have been involved in this, and
Yeah,
gonna need some
so
work.
this is first reading of ordinance 2019-15 regarding synthetic turf. Do we have anybody from the planning and zoning here that wanted to speak on this tonight? I don't think so. Okay. So after staff discussions and P and Z approval of the first read, or of this ordinance to send to the town commission, our new planner, Corey O'Gorman, had reviewed the ordinance, and he has several items that we need to address. So we would like permission to reevaluate this ordinance and then bring it back to P and Z for their approval, and then bring it back to you after that.
I think what we wanted to do, just, we can open it up here, and I don't know if, it's really not for first reading, I guess, but you have the ordinance there, and I don't know if the public or if you all want to speak on it, so that way you could give us any further input you might have, so when we take it back and address the planner's comments and take it back to P and Z, then we can try to be comprehensive in addressing possibly all the comments that somebody may have. So.
Rather than waste P and Z's time.
Yes.
And come back again and hear your comments for the first time,
So
so.
public comment? Okay, commissioner comment? I have a few.
It is just amazing how many details. If you haven't read the ordinance, it talks about how much it weighs per square yard, what the height of it will be, the permeability will be, that it's lead-free, what's the manufacturer's warranty on it. It just, there's a lot that really kind of goes into it versus just you drive by and you say, oh, that's so ugly. Why did they do that? My opinion, obviously, solely my opinion. One question that I did have, and I know that there's a lot of things that, sometimes we are the tail and sometimes we are the dog. And so I feel like, we're kind of the dog in this instance, and the tail's already started to wag. But is there not the opportunity, even if somebody has grandfathered in having this in their front yard, that we could, maybe not through ordinance, but through respectfully asking that they put something that's live in front of it so we don't have to see it as, it's so, and unfortunately, or fortunately, they always do it on sloped, which makes sense, that's why they're doing it. But if there was just even a small island ficus hedge in front of it that broke the
A screening
garishness.
for whatever's already there in the front.
Which gets to kind of my point. What we're trying to achieve here is that you can't see it from a public right of way.
That was the P and Z recommendation, was that it
And
not
now we
be
get this
seen from the,
very wordy, long document, trying to tell people what to do on their private property. Versus, we're just concerned with the aesthetics. And by the way, there's 2 camps on artificial turf. If you actually do the scientific papers that have been published, it's actually greener and more ecologically friendly than grass, believe it or not. And it drains. So it's all about aesthetics. So
It's about the character of what we have boots on the ground and we would like to maintain in landscaping visuals.
yeah,
Yeah.
the visuals rather than aesthetics. Fine.
Correct.
Okay. So I had a few other points that when they go to do this, the height of the grass, right? Now, apparently there's some people that already have putting grasses in their properties, which don't meet the height requirement. So that's just a conflict.
But they're in the backyard, aren't they? They don't have putting
Right,
greens
but
in their
according
front
to this,
yard.
it tells you how,
Right.
it tells you the height you must install.
so it wouldn't be allowed to exceed any of these restrictions, whether or not it's in the rear or side yard, even if it can't be seen. If, once we adopt this, they would still have to comply with these regulations, even if you can't see it from anywhere.
Right. So we want to change that. In other words, the height of the grass needs to be dealt with.
I think what they were going for was they were trying to have something that looked more real And that's why they went with the height, but it's a good point that if you're going for a putting green, you wouldn't be able to.
Right.
Right, and you're not seeing it from the back, but I understand the concept of trying to make it look not like outdoor carpet, too.
Exactly.
But if we're screened, and the main part of this seems to be anything that's side and back is totally screened from the street, then maybe that's not a specific that we have to be quite so tight on,
I agree,
is
but
what
it
you're
needs-
saying?
needs
From
to
the
be in
street and
ordinance.
from your neighbor, or
Right.
only from the street?
Oh, I would say
And what
from
about second-story
anybody's
windows?
view.
You know, now you get into it.
Yes, and now you get into the other vision.
You're gonna be talking about drones too, or what?
Brian, we're gonna dump the height on you, so that's number one, right? And you guys will sort it out with P and Z. And then
No
number
problem.
two, palette, color, whatever you wanna call it. Green fadeless grass. You know, we need to, as stupid as it sounds, define green. You know, what one person's green is different than another person's green. And what if their lawn actually is in ill health and is kind of a yellow green? So they want to put in a yellow green artificial to match it. So we have to have some calibration.
Is there a standard?
Well, I don't know, I mean, it's, and once again, I've just seen a few of these driving through town. They appear to be, of course, I'm kind of colorblind, so don't take from me, you know. But I mean, the green appears to be kind of the same. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I would defer to the building official and Lisa Trepapi, but whatever green you all want to pick, or if you want them to, you know, to pick, I'm sure there's probably an industry standard of this is the green, and I guess you're suggesting that we call it out and call it that,
Yeah.
to say this is the green, okay.
Yeah, you don't want somebody, you know, with a brown house decides they want a purple lawn. Okay, fines, right, we'd like some recommendation on fines when people, artificial turf falls into disrepair.
And that would be the normal code enforcement process.
Okay.
So it would be under chapter 162, the Florida
So we have
statutes.
to have a specific schedule of fines for that?
No, we don't. I mean, it would just be like any other code enforcement fine that we take them in front of the special magistrate, and staff would make a recommendation on a daily fine and go from there.
Okay, and this other one, and I would hope there's some discussion on this, to force people that have non-compliant artificial turf currently, after the ordinance goes in, they would be out of compliance, to force them to remove it within 10 years. I think that's a little rough, number one. Number two, I think Christine's idea would probably take care of that problem.
I mean, I believe, and I know Tracy's memory's better on this, I guess that was a request from P and Z, if I'm not mistaken, okay.
Yes.
So,
Well, I mean, how far are we gonna take this? Like,
Well,
let's
it
say
says-
somebody is grandfathered in with something else.
But it says non-compliant
I-
artificial turf, so we would be talking possibly somebody that's already got it in the
Yeah.
front yard?
that's right, just about anybody who has artificial turf out
Would
there
be
is
Tell them
non-compliant.
to get rid of it.
Right.
10 years is a long
Yes.
time.
I'd tell them it too.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'm not-
10 years is a
I'm not-
long time.
The concept of artificial grass I don't like, but there's also private property rights, and there's also an undue burden on people. Like, there's a guy that just installed it.
But 10 years is a long time. Even for plastic, 10
All right,
years
I'm
is
just
a long
bringing that
time.
up. No
Right,
one
right.
seems to agree with me on it.
It only needs an 8-year manufacturer's warranty, so they're gonna be 2 years out of warranty.
Anyway,
And it's
there you go.
And-
And in disrepair.
And faded.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so, that was kind of my comments. The one thing we didn't really get into, which was just literally pushing back, is, that, and I don't know if everyone agrees with me, this part C, 12C, locations allowed, I think that needs to be seriously looked at. As far as what we're trying to accomplish, and what we're trying to accomplish is you don't see it from a public right away. You know, once you get down to this kind of nitty gritty, it's only 25% of your backyard, 25% of your side yard. We need as Christine used the word visual, we need a visual guideline, I think, then that solves a lot of these problems.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you leave it up to each individual discretion, not unlike what you said about the color, there's wiggle room for, well, you know, I did 32%. And I think there has to be, especially when you codify something, there needs to be
Okay,
some,
I agree with that. But our
some
main
parameters.
intent here is it doesn't destroy the visual of Ocean Ridge,
correct.
which this doesn't necessarily address, right?
Well, I mean,
What's
this
it
does say that you can't, it's not visible from the public right-of-way,
Right.
so, you know, there might be cases where someone could do their entire backyard and rear yard, and none of it would be visible from the public right-of-way. However, pursuant to this code, they would only be allowed to do 25%. Vice versa, there might be instances of where someone, as far as visibility goes, they could only do like maybe 10% of their rear or side yards, because if they did any more, it would be visible from the public right-of-way. So I guess there's two limiting factors there. One is the percentage, one is the visibility. And I don't know if you want to change that. I do know that P and Z was very, they talked quite a bit about the 25% in the rear and side yard and how we would take into account the entire lot area. So they, you know, that's where that direction, and as far as the visibility from the public right-of-way, that's where that direction came from.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
You do or don't?
I don't.
They spent a lot of time coming up with this, so, I mean, there's a lot of nuances that we may not necessarily know
Well,
about.
I do know,
And
there
speaking
was
to
a
others.
concept of, can you see it from the second story of the neighbor's house? And, you know, we're setting some pretty steep guidelines here.
Yeah, I think that was just commentary.
Right, but that didn't end up in here. The
No.
25% is. and I
It's
think
just
that's a
public
workable-
right-of-way, so
Right.
if someone puts up a hedge or something like that and screens it, then it's not visible from the public right-of-way.
Right, so let's say a street, right, you're on a street and you put up Christine's hedge, and then you have the synthetic grass behind the hedge, and it's your front lawn, we don't care.
Right. Well,
It says no front lawn.
Right, this says no front lawn.
right. So it can't be
What
in
we're
the.
really trying to say is we don't wanna see it.
Well, I mean, I think what they were saying is that they, regardless of whether you could, they don't want it in the front lawns, period, and they only want to allow a maximum of 25% on the rear and the side, regardless of how well you have it screened. But the major catch-all is even, you know, you've got to meet the percentage requirements or you can't exceed those, but regardless of that, you cannot see it from the public right-of-way.
Okay, so it still doesn't take care of my problem.
It's still not allowed in the front lawn.
Right.
That's
Right,
his
it's
problem.
not.
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
Unless
right?
it is part of, in between the paver
I
system.
saw that.
Exactly, and so if it falls within the paver system, then it would be allowed.
Yeah. The 25% thing I get. So the only thing I'm disagreeing with is that if you can't see it, why are we not allowing that? If the guy wants to put his putting green in his front yard, because it happens to be more conducive, and you can't see it,
I hear you, I'm
The
just.
next guy may
Right.
take down the
Okay.
bushes,
Well,
we
then
may
they'd
end
be
up
a
putting
tow
in
violation.
sidewalks. It's, the most likely place that you will see it is in somebody's front yard. And I think that that's what we are saying, that we really don't want to see.
Trying to avoid the concept of that even possibly happening. And I think this is a pretty good compromise in the big picture, because I've spoken to some other towns. A lot of places just say zippo, none. So this still gives a little wiggle room here.
Okay, any other input to Brian and P and Z? All right,
You got the shielding one, right?
The shielding one?
For existing turf, if there would be any way to respectfully ask some type of visual shielding from it?
Okay, and,
It may not be possible,
next
because they
10
may
years.
have no irrigation, therefore, that's the reason
Right,
that they put it in, so. but-
okay, and you would like, I mean, there's some existing synthetic turf, I believe, that's either very close or it might be in a right-of-way. We can't shield that, but you're talking about in someone's front yard.
In the front yard, and if it is in our right-of-way, why can't we have a say on it?
Well, by this code, we aren't allowing it in a right-of-way, and
So I'm saying for the ones that are existing.
right.
What's there now? Anything
Yeah.
you can, you're saying.
Okay,
There are,
anything we can shield
there's
it,
some
got
that
it.
are
Oh, yeah,
right
we
up
got
to
some right
the
up to the wall.
asphalt.
Right.
Yes.
Is there any way we can look to shielding
Okay.
what's already there, because they're having 10 years
Got
of
it.
that to
you
be
mean
here,
shield
correct?
it now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think that's possible. Brian,
Right,
do you
we're
understand?
only talking about 2-3 houses.
I know, but they already installed it, they're within code, and then we changed the code, and now they have to put a hedge in front of it? I don't think that's possible.
It could be an ask. I mean, I think people want to be good neighbors. I mean,
Yeah, we can look at it, right?
We can take a look and see what our
See if there's any
planner,
ask them
right,
to throw them
yes,
in jail, but.
yeah.
And how about the interim time while we're still debating this and it goes back to P and Z? Anything we can do to, what was that term? Not the moratorium, what was the term, zoning in progress or what have you, remember? Anything we can do to just make, have it come forward
Oh,
to you before?
Well, the problem is that normally only works when you can have the zoning in progress or moratorium when people have to come to you first
Right.
to get a permit.
Right,
They don't have to come to us at all right now to get a permit or to do anything. This is establishing
Right,
that.
this is our start.
So it's very difficult, so I'm not quite sure how we could do that, because since they aren't required to come to us to begin with, because we don't have anything on the books.
we can't have some sort of
We can't,
temporary-
well, I mean, it's how do we stop somebody
Right.
if there's nothing
That's
in
my
place that
question.
says they come, yes.
That's my question.
No, I think that's why we were trying to
Right,
move this
to get
along as
moving.
quickly as possible,
right,
so.
right.
We'll see if we can get this in front of P and Z at their upcoming meeting, and then I'm assuming probably bring this back for first reading on January, at the January meeting.
I would like to get it on, I'd like to approve the first reading tonight and have it go back to P and Z for some amendments, because the artificial turf in this town is growing. I mean,
My point.
since we
It
first
is.
started
That's my
discussing
point.
this, there's been, and I know it doesn't grow, but there's been at least 3 more houses that have had artificial turf installed on the front of the house. And so if we do it on the first reading tonight and send it for amendment and have it come back next month for the second reading, we're gonna be a month ahead.
I understand that, however, my concern is with the changes that Corey O'Gorman has recommended, that we may look at that when we go back to P and Z, if there's a few other ones, that we may look at that and go, you know what, we need to come back for first reading anyway, because there's been too many changes between the way it is now and then, and that's how come my suggestion is we get your input now, we take it to P and Z immediately at the very next meeting, and then we bring it back at your very next council meeting, commission meeting. I understand what you're saying, but I think with some of the changes that he had suggested, and he had also suggested that we need to discuss or talk about a couple of things, that there may be some other changes in there that, that it's, I guess I'm just hesitant to try to approve this tonight, because I'm afraid that we would have to, my suggestion would be, let's do it first reading again anyway.
Actually, it would probably slow us down, because we had to kick it back on the second
Right.
reading.
Well, we may not have to,
Till
just
February.
logistically, I think it just makes better sense, let's just, we've got your direction, and we'll meet with Corey, and we'll get this going in front of
Okay,
P
you
and Z.
understand we're into February.
For approval, yes.
So consensus that we kick it back to P and Z and take it up at the
Corey's
next town
input.
meeting?
I guess
Agree?
that's all we can do.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 11, approve the Department of Environmental Resources Management requests for variance for the shore protection.
Yes, I gave you a memo from the Department of Environmental Resources Management. They're requesting to work 24/7 during the Ocean Ridge Shore Protection Project, which is scheduled to occur in February 2020. And what that is our beach renourishment project. The town has granted and it's not really a variance. They have granted administrative approval for our beach restoration projects in the past. And although there may be some noise disturbances, staff recommends granting the approval, especially due to the severity of the beach erosion that we're having in Ocean Ridge right now. Brian, I know you wanted to speak on this.
Right, and I just have a comment on this. Procedurally, I think under section 3483, where it talks about construction during certain hours, Saturdays, Sundays, federal holidays, and penalties, it does talk about, as far as them being able to perform construction activities and the construction noise, that they have to comply with their code, except in a case of urgent necessity in the interest of public health and safety, and then with a permit from the noise control officer, which would be Tracy. So that I would also ask that the commission provide that this, or approve that this is a case of urgent necessity in the interest of public health and safety pursuant to this code section, and that Tracy can issue the permit, and when it expires, that she can reissue that same permit. I think it talks about in here for a maximum of 3 days. I was just procedurally trying to figure out a way. I know that they had asked for a variance, and we were trying to locate if there was an underlying interlocal agreement, and we haven't been able to find that yet. So this would be the next best way to just procedurally process this, to provide that, you can approve this also based on the fact that this is urgent necessity in the interest of public health and safety.
So, why don't you propose a motion that somebody should say?
Okay.
Can I ask a question first, though? Because isn't this going into turtle season, March 1st? Isn't that when turtle season starts?
Well, I think you said Feb.
So it'll be
It
done
should
in
be
a
good.
couple weeks?
It
It'll
should
be
be,
that
yes,
fast? Okay.
yes.
Right?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so then it would be approve the request presented by, I think this is from County Tracy?
Yes.
Okay, to approve the request from County based upon the fact that under Section 34-83, that it is a matter of urgent necessity in the interest of public health and safety, and that you're authorizing the town manager to issue the permit for the work to begin in accordance with that section.
And to renew.
And to renew the permit as needed, or as needed during their construction process.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, you ready, Tracy? Town
Yes.
manager report.
The drainage project on Spanish River Drive will resume in early December as the town's contractor is unable to properly install the new drainage pipe during periods of extreme high tides, which we have been experiencing. Wayne, did you get an update on when they will be coming back, or Lisa?
Yeah, they're planning on mobilizing in the later part of this week.
Okay, great. Second item, regretfully, we had to say goodbye to our newest Public Works employee, Tim Milligan. He resigned recently due to personal reasons and will be sorely missed by all. He did a fantastic job for the town and was well liked by staff and residents. We have advertised for the position through several of our resources and are awaiting applications at this time. We've only received 2 applications so far. We received our compliance letter from the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity in reference to our comprehensive plan amendments. The compliance letter states that our comp plan amendments meet the requirements of Chapter 163, Part 2 of the Florida statutes. This will be deemed the final order of compliance unless an effective party challenges that during the time frame allowed. Staff has been fielding many phone calls over the past several weeks from concerned residents regarding the severity of beach erosion from their properties. As you know, Palm Beach County Department of Environmental Resources Management will be conducting the beach restoration project, which we just talked about. This project will extend from Ocean Mews in the north section of the town to just south of Edith Street in the center of town. I will be actively working with to research long-term solutions to the erosion problems that are happening in town. For private property solutions, we're recommending to residents that they hire an engineer for solutions to protect their property, such as installations of seawalls and also bringing in sand. We are alerting the residents that they do need to get the proper permits from DEP in the town, and that the town may be able to expedite those in emergency situations. Waste Pro began
Excuse me,
servicing.
Tracy,
Yes.
could they piggyback the dredging project?
I don't believe so.
No.
No.
They couldn't like pay them a little extra money to throw some more sand onto their dunes,
I
nothing
don't
like
believe so. I
that?
can check into it, but I don't believe so. Yeah, I can certainly ask. I do not believe that is the case, though.
Okay.
When you do find out, though, the Ocean Club had interest, if you do find out something
Okay.
positive, I'd
Sure.
like to know.
Sure. Waste Pro began servicing Ocean Ridge on last Tuesday for garbage and recycling services, and their service thus far has been excellent. They will be rolling out a new notification tool for town staff to use to communicate with them regarding issues we may have, and their operations manager has committed to stopping by Ocean Ridge on a weekly basis to make sure everything is running smoothly. And this is really great service for the town. We have a lot of great comments already from the residents, and some underlying issues that we were having with our previous contractor have been already taken care of by Waste Pro. So
Wow.
we're really happy with the switch.
So Tracy, I know that Billy Armstrong was off last week, and then
Mhm.
this gentleman's gone.
Yeah.
So, and moving forward, we're only gonna have one person, and we kinda are hitting the season. Like, I don't know if you happened to go down Old Ocean this morning, right, all the trash cans are overflowing.
Yes,
So if you need to go to a temp service or something,
we are.
Yeah.
We have used, we used the temp service a couple of times last week to do the beach trash. We had, of course, the holiday, so we had staff that was not here
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, we'll be resuming our normal service this week. And then last but not least, certainly not least, the Septic to Sewer Citizens Advisory Committee voted at their last meeting to make a presentation to the Town Commission at your January 6th meeting regarding their recommendation to transfer ownership of the town's potable water infrastructure to the city of Boynton Beach. Now, I know you had already had that come before you, and you sent it back to the committee, but now they have voted to come back to you again and do a presentation. And I know you also received a letter from the chair of that committee, kind of explaining everything, and they kind of want direction on where they're going next. I don't know if you want the
you wanna do
chair
it
to
now,
come
or
up
you
and
wanna do
speak.
it when we get to the grant writing?
Now, probably, yeah, if you
Peter,
wanna
you
have
got
the
anything
chair
you wanna
come
add?
up.
No, I made my position clear in what I sent out.
So you need a little direction whether to put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Anybody got any problem with it, at least have the discussion?
Well, can I say a few things, but it
Sure.
might be?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Your recommendation was to give up the pipes, right, to hand them over to Boynton Beach?
That's what the committee voted, yes.
Right. I'm kind of against that, but let me give you a compromise that maybe could work. What I was thinking is, and I wasn't at November's meeting, but I listened to the recording, and I think you said, Tracy, the pipes were worth about 3.8 million?
Yeah.
Now, is that?
Or a little more.
Okay,
now.
is that net book value?
Book value,
Okay, so it's cost minus all the depreciation over the years, net book value.
right.
Okay. My suggestion, and it has to do with Lisa too. Lisa, in your report, you put that we had 4 options when we first signed up this first contract. I'm assuming it was hook up with Gulfstream, hook up with Manalapan, dig our own well, or hook up with Boynton. Is that correct?
That was, yes, that was a report.
In the sewer and the,
It was a very old report,
right.
about not 20 years, but that was,
1990s.
Okay, so my point is, what I'm trying to wrap this all together is, if we give them our pipes, we basically lost 3 of the 4 options. We'll always have to stay with Boynton. Here's my compromise, and if you want to bring it back to the committee, see if it makes sense. If that's worth $3.8 million, or whatever the net book value is, Boynton Beach pays us the $3.8 million, but we have the option at any point in time afterwards to buy it back for net book value at the time we're buying it. So for example, she's been, like, I don't know, Terry said it was like 12 million, so was it 12 million at one time and it got down to net book value after depreciation to 3.8, or was 12 million just out of the ballpark?
I said 8 million.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
10 million, but
Okay, so, but I mean, it was more than 3.8 when it was put in, right? Because you had to depreciate it over the
Yeah,
years.
certainly.
Okay, so my point is, all right, it's worth 3.8 million now. They buy it from us for $3.8 million. We put that in kind of a reserve fund, a restricted fund. It always stays in there. We don't touch it, it earns interest. Then over time, they're gonna have to replace some pipes, do some work. If it's a capitalized item, like if you repair 20 feet of pipe, that's just a repair, that's maintenance, no big deal. If they take pipes all the way down A1A and they make it from, it was 50 years old, now it's 0 years old because they put it in, and that costs $2 million, That gets added to the $3.8 million. So now we own 5.8 if we have to buy it, but we're buying new pipes back. So that's kind of my suggestion. And over time, it gets depreciated.
What you're trying to do is have the town keep control without.
Well, the only problem is, like I said, Lisa gave us 4 options. We'll have one option, Boynton. So how are we going to know 10, 20 years from now if we made the right decision? We're hostages to
Yeah,
it.
so Phil, to your point, I also did not make that last meeting, but listened to it and have either been in attendance and seen all the meetings. I would only be interested in entertaining a presentation if it had 2 to 3 or 4 different options. Do we keep the pipes? Do we not keep the pipes? Do we keep the maintenance? Do we not keep the maintenance? What's it cost us so far? What's it gonna cost us in the future? Do we need a 30-year contract? Can it be a 20-year contract? And I think that that's what this group, as a commission, sent back to the committee this past time to say, you know, there's some, just not gaping holes, but there's a lot of questions that aren't answered. And my take from the last meeting was there was consternation amongst the committee members as to whether or not they felt that they should be tasked with doing that research or coming up with that information, and or should they, you know, should they be looking at septic, should they be looking at the water contract at all? They kind of were tasked initially with septic to sewer, and in speaking to some of the members who have reached out, they don't feel like, and I'm not speaking categorically, but the ones that did, they don't feel like they have those answers, nor do they have the skill set or the desire to get those answers. And some of those things, particularly what you talked about right now, are kind of negotiating strategies. And doing all this in a public forum may not serve us in a very strong negotiating posture with Boynton going forward. So you know, one of the other options I lay out is either A, do a workshop so we can start to ask these questions and it could be a little bit more interactive than a presentation, or if we feel like this group has done what it needs to do to kick it back to the staff, and I don't know, I mean, would staff be ready to do the remaining research and getting these answers for the commission?
Yes, I'm comfortable with doing that. And like you said, I'm gonna piggyback on what you said, and we are negotiating with, or potentially we will be negotiating with Boynton. And I wouldn't want those negotiating points being brought up in public. And it's just.
That's my concern.
Right.
Whether we do it as a presentation or a workshop or anything else, I think we're kind of tipping our hand.
Correct.
So what you're saying is that we will go on the motion that the committee made earlier to go with Boynton, but we will leave it up to.
No,
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Not ready for that yet.
So
But
basically,
that's what
we're
they
answering.
came to, that was
That's
the
what they came,
recommendation
right.
that they came with.
Christine's
Right.
So their
So-
latest
but-
recommendation was for a presentation. It did not require another vote.
So,
Simply a presentation.
Neil's already laid this out for us. Is this committee's job complete for the water contract, given the recommendation has been made? Should we take the water contract offline and have the town manager, financial advisors, and contractor rep tell us, determine the confidential financial implications? The answer to that is yes.
On that question, yes.
Yeah.
Next question, do you desire a presentation of the committee's water contract at the next meeting? The answer to that would be no, because we're now giving it to you.
Right.
You're taking their report and you're taking it home. Number 3, shall the committee continue to focus on septic to sewer as stated in the statement of purpose?
I'd say
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, and we'll get to grant writing. I want you to come up and talk to us a little bit. Number 4, as a chair, it is my intention to end the septic to submit a final report. No. The answer, don't end the committee yet. Is that
Oh,
agreed?
what he's saying is it's in his intent, or it's the committee's intention to continue their work and then submit a final report. He wanted to know if you wanted a final report and a presentation, or one or
Yeah.
the other?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay, those are the 4 items that you want to clarify. Have been clarified enough?
Yes, I wasn't uncomfortable after the last meeting, but
Okay,
others were.
very good. Okay.
Could you explain though how you're gonna do a workshop though,
We're not.
through the sunshine laws? No?
You won't
So
now?
you're not gonna
Yeah.
do it?
We won't
through a
have to
workshop?
now.
No.
It's just a
No.
thought.
Turn it back over to the staff.
Yep.
Okay.
The only thing that I'd like to add, though, is our thanks to the committee to getting it queued up to this point, because there is a lot of work that I think had gone into it up until this point, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and I appreciate your sheets. Okay, town attorney, anything to add?
No, sir.
All right, police chief?
Good evening. Attached, you'll find the October 2019 police and fire report. You'll notice that the fire report is in a little different format. Boynton Beach has changed software companies and are still exploring their new software. As a reminder, we are currently collecting unwrapped toys for the Guardian Ad Litem program, and for the second year, we would be more than happy to take any toys you can provide us and take them up on December the 10th, as the collection stops on December the 9th. Thanks to everyone who joined us on November the 13th for our dessert social. I was a little bit overwhelmed with the response during the middle of the world's worst thunderstorm sideways. My count was a little over 100 people.
Get out of town.
It was fabulous, yeah.
We will be doing that again and hoping that you all show up again. Hopefully it won't rain.
I know.
I've been in-
Oh, right, Deborah.
Deborah is not here because she will be here on the 6th in the evening, so I told her she has to stay tonight.
Yeah,
She intends to
tell her
make
that.
you more desserts to lure you in, yes.
Do the trick.
I've been informed that we have a new fire chief. Interim Chief Matthew Petty has taken over Boynton Beach Fire Rescue. Chief Joseph has retired as of last Friday, I believe it was. I look forward to working with Chief Petty. He has already reached out to me today, the day that he was appointed as interim chief, and we will have a meeting soon to discuss at least response times and our monthly reports.
Is he from within?
He is currently a deputy chief, brought in as interim.
Okay.
They have advertised for a fire chief, fire rescue EMS chief's position already. I don't know whether their intent is to encourage local internal candidates or not. I wasn't given that information, just that they have posted it online. I looked at the posting. We hope that everybody had a very, very uneventful but very happy Thanksgiving, and we wish that the rest of your holidays are enjoyable and safe. That being said, I would ask your permission to be absent for the January 6th meeting and send Lieutenant Jones in my place, as I will be attending the Florida Police Chiefs annual or midwinter conference and meeting. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Did any folks from Briney come to the evening event?
Yes, they did. We'll be doing some events in Briney also over the season as it ramps up down there a little bit. But yes, we did have a good number of people from Briney since we took over come, and we've had nothing but positive comments from those folks.
And I know you told us this before, but when is the firehouse opening, the one that will be closer to us?
Oh, off the top of my head, now you have to ask
It's
that
in
question.
February, I believe.
That's
February,
Yeah,
but
there is.
possibly March now.
Yeah. Which is great
it
news
is
for
the-
EMT
It is,
response.
it is supposed to be the first building completed in an operation.
All right, Wayne?
The report's in front of you, if you have any questions. Just a reminder, we've got code enforcement tomorrow morning. 9 o'clock.
You've been a busy boy. 190 inspections performed by the building department.
But look at the permit applications received.
Yeah.
So that was at 90, now we're down to 44.
And they're all putting in artificial turf.
They're all- Okay.
You're up.
Are we a wrap? Yeah.
No,
we're
you're up. Grant funding.
Okay. Grant, so, yes.
May I please intrude for
Sure.
a second? I'm sorry. Sometimes my mind goes. I just wanted to take this opportunity from myself, from the Garden Club. I should have brought this up earlier, and I totally apologize. Veterans Day here at the Town Hall was an exceptional event. Everyone who came totally loved it. We had people from Briney, we had a lot of veterans. Our police department was fabulous. They barbecued everything. Everyone had a great time. The town staff was very, very helpful. Everyone contributed. It was like, such a great affair, and I just wanted to thank everyone, publicly, and I apologize for not bringing it up earlier.
So we should make it an annual event.
Well, that's what the police chief would like to do, and that's what Tracy would like to do. Great.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to have any discussion on that?
It was fantastic. Yeah, it was very good.
Okay, grant funding. This ties directly into our septic sewer committee. So, a gentleman who's an expert at writing grants sat down with me and Tracy a couple weeks back. This is what his company does. They do grant writing. And it's surprisingly cheap, by the way. They'll write the grant and monitor it for $2,500 to $4,000. They also stay on top of the process. They also know all the grants that are available, and they have very good connections into Tallahassee. So there's this thought out there that Ocean Ridge is incapable of getting grants because we're too wealthy. In other words, no one will write us a grant. That's true on some criteria, but where we are hitting a home run is on beach erosion, green algae, and red tide. So we are, let's call it a hotspot for grants due to our environment, the environment in Ocean Ridge. So that's good news. So the wealth has nothing to do with it. It's a total new kettle of fish, which has to do with environmental. So we don't need to worry about the fact that our community is rather wealthy and we won't get grants. And in fact, there are grants available to investigate putting in septic to sewer, which is news to me. They're about anywhere from up to $75,000. And then when is DeSantis' term end? 2022? 2023? I think it's 2023. So the reason why there's been no mandate yet is because he's going to go for a second term, so he's not going to mandate it in his first term. So if he wins a second term, the wisdom in Tallahassee is that he will then mandate septic to sewer. Number one. Number two, if DeSantis loses and a Democrat wins, then chances of them mandating it are high as well. So it looks like we're looking around 2024, 25, when it's going to be mandated to the Barrier Islands. And then we'll probably have, I would guess, 8 to 10 years to accomplish that. So what the other grants that are available are the actual installation of the switch from septic to sewer. And this company felt quite confident that we would be able to get $2-3 million grants, because what's going to happen is Tallahassee will open up more money, and there'll be federal money, state money involved as well. And a town like ours would meet the criteria for those grants. Now, there's no guarantee we get any grants, but if we can get $6 million from the government instead of paying $20 million for our switchover, which comes out of our pockets, we'd be down to 14 million. So I wanted Neil's committee to be aware of this, because as part of what you guys are doing, to my mind, the most important thing is the funding, right, via the grants or the alternative methods of funding it. The committee is not a battle over whether or not we're going to do septic or sewer. The mission of the committee, in my mind, and I know you asked this in your notes, is that if it's mandated to us that we have to go to sewer, we're going to be ahead of the game. And per the grant writing company, that's extremely important. Because what will happen in 24, 25 is that all these communities are going to go, uh-oh, and they're going to go racing for the money. They're not going to have the charts. They're not going to have the feasibility. They're not going to have the outlines. They're not going to have the needs, which makes us superior candidates, because we'll have all that material. So I would say keep moving forward with your committee, trying to address those questions. I would definitely, the grant guy couldn't make this meeting, but he's coming to the next meeting. So you could probably snag him.
I just got an update from him today. He
Yeah.
will be attending the septic to sewer meeting on January 9th.
Good. Jan 9? Okay, which is after the town meeting.
Right.
Well,
He was unsure whether he could come to the town commission meeting.
all right, well, if he
He's-
can, we don't really.
But he's definitely
I think-
committed to the septic sewer meeting.
Yeah, if he can make the town meeting, it's good, because it'd be fascinating for all the commissioners
Right.
to hear what he has to say. It's
Right.
really uplifting. Now, of course, he's a salesman,
Right, right.
you know.
You're
But still.
invited to Committee meeting.
The lawyer
Yeah.
frowns on commissioners attending committee meetings.
Is that true?
Speaking.
Oh.
I'd like to settle this because I've heard completely the opposite.
No, what I guess I frown on is hopefully if you attend meetings of different committees, the problem sometimes if you speak at those meetings and there's another commissioner present, then, I'm not saying there's any sunshine law violation, but you always run the risk of somebody making a complaint or, it getting kind of closer to that line. And so therefore, if you do attend, I would rather you not speak if you could refrain from speaking. And so that's the main, that is my biggest concern.
But attending is not a problem as long as we keep our opinions to ourselves.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's, well, yes,
I think our
some.
last attorney said it a little less eloquently. He said, know your role and shut your hole. So,
That
As in,
would
don't
suffice,
speak.
yes, that's right. I mean, that's, yes. Because you cannot, well, I don't want to say, nothing really good can happen, if you speak there, but you're going to hear it later, so you're better off in just listening.
Right.
So, and not speaking. Even if the chair of the committee asks you to come up, or, members look back at you like, well, don't you want to come up, and just don't do it.
Don't
Yes.
frown.
Say no.
Right, no faces, no, nothing, yes.
Okay, anything else on grants anybody wants to talk about?
No.
Don, you have the floor.
Okay, this month I celebrate my 33rd year as a resident in Ocean Ridge. By my count, there's been 11 mayors, 4 police chiefs, and at least 7 town managers during that period. Having said that, my wife and I have decided to move to North Carolina. We'll be moving next year sometime, and so I will not be running for re-election. I just wanted to tell you all how much I appreciated your electing me to the commission for my final 3 years in Ocean Ridge. I've loved this town. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss all of you. But the decision has been made, and so we will be leaving Ocean Ridge sometime next year. So thank you for letting me serve you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for all you did for the town. Okay, we're adjourned.
See you for a little while, right? A few minutes.